Welcome to the deep dive, the place where we take these huge piles of information and just strip them down to the essential practical insights you can actually use.
Hmm.
And if you've ever felt like, your English vocabulary is pretty good, but when you actually speak, it just sounds a little robotic, a little stiff.
Right, like you're translating in your head.
Exactly. Then this deep dive is specifically for you.
Today, we're going on a really fascinating mission, I think. We're completely bypassing the traditional textbook.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, right. We're focusing on how fluency isn't just about, how many words you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's really about mastering these conversational shortcuts.
Shortcuts, I like that.
The phrases, the idioms, all the functional language tools that make your communication instantly feel more natural, more confident.
And more engaging, right?
Absolutely.
We are diving straight into the heart of what makes communication, well, effective. And our source material for this is fantastic. It tracks the journey of a single learner.
We're calling her Lucy.
Right, Lucy. And we follow her through a single, really busy Monday. And by analyzing the phrases she used and the ones she heard and the ones she thought about, we can give you a kind of blueprint.
A blueprint for what exactly?
A blueprint for sounding less like a student who's just reciting rules and more like someone who really gets the rhythm, the emotion of a real English conversation.
And that's the whole goal here, isn't it? It's transformation.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to see these phrases not as like a static list you have to memorize for a test.
No, not
They're dynamic tools. They're tools for expressing comfort, for signaling that you're thinking strategically, and for just achieving an instant connection with someone.
It's like a social lubricant in a way.
It is. That's a great way to put it. They offer all this deep context and emotional signaling without needing these long, awkward, clunky explanations.
Think of it this way. These phrases are kind of like pre-packaged social intelligence.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
They're the difference between saying something very formal like, I will begin my tasks immediately, and something so much more energetic and committed like,
I need to hit the ground running.
exactly. Our deep dive today is designed to give you that immediate fluency boost. That's the mission.
And we've broken Lucy's day down chronologically. So we're starting right at, probably, the most challenging moment of the entire week.
Monday morning.
The very start.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're starting in those early hours in what we're calling setting the morning pace. This is where that battle between, being tired and needing to be productive really begins.
It's universal feeling.
It really is. So Lucy's story, it begins with immediate action. She woke up tired. I think we can all relate to that on a Monday. But her internal monologue was all about determination. She basically dictated her need for positive action with one phrase: I need to hit the ground running today.
And this phrase is just, it's so powerful. It's a psychological tool, really, before it's even a linguistic one.
What do you mean by that?
Well, to hit the ground running is so much more than just starting quickly. It defines the launch of something a day, a project, a new job with, and this is the key, maximum energy and minimum preparation.
Minimum preparation, so you're not easing into it.
Not at all. There's no warm-up. And the cultural context here is just critical, isn't it? Especially for a learner who wants to sound professional.
Right.
This phrase is so deeply embedded in, American British corporate culture. It signals readiness, commitment, proactivity.
So if you say this to your boss, for example, you're not just promising you'll be fast.
Yeah.
You're promising you'll contribute right away. You're basically saying, you don't need to onboard me for weeks. I'm already in motion. I'm already adding value.
Precisely. Let's just dissect the imagery for a second. Imagine jumping out of a moving vehicle and needing to sprint the second your feet touch the ground.
Yeah, there's no moment to, catch your breath or get your bearings.
Exactly. The phrase communicates that urgency, but it's coupled with capability. It's not panicked, it's prepared. So for a learner, knowing when to deploy this phrase shows immense initiative.
But, okay, let me push back a bit on that. If we're aiming for authentic, natural dialogue, couldn't using a phrase like this too often make you sound, I don't know, perpetually stressed or even a bit hyperbolic?
That's a fantastic point, and I think the source material addresses that nuance.
Okay.
It implies that you should reserve it for moments that require a real concentrated burst of effort, usually at the start of something critical.
So like the first day of a big project.
Exactly. Lucy used it because she knew her Monday was packed. She had a high-demand day ahead.
Yeah.
If you use it for something simple, like, I'm going to hit the ground running on folding this laundry,
It loses all its punch. It sounds a little silly.
it loses its power completely. It
Yeah.
communicates that the project at hand is important and it requires immediate, high-octane focus. It's a declaration that really sets the tone for what's to come.
So, okay, the key application for you, the listener. Use hit the ground running when you are starting a high-priority task, maybe joining a new team, or committing to a really challenging deadline. It signals that you're energized, you're prepared, and you're ready to forego that whole easing in period. It's a really energetic declaration of intent.
Yeah, what I find so fascinating here is how the source material immediately balances that high-speed, high-energy intention with a dose of necessary patience.
Right, because you can't maintain that pace forever.
You can't.
Yeah.
Lucy had this long, daunting list of tasks, and she realized that just pure speed wasn't going to get her through the whole day. She'd burn out.
Which brings us directly to her next mental note, which she made, I think, while she was brushing her teeth.
Yeah.
Slow and steady wins the race. This is, I mean, it's the complete conversational counterweight to that initial burst of energy.
It is. It's a critical tool for perspective. It comes from one of the oldest fables, the tortoise and the hare. And its application today is all about the psychology of long-term goal management. It's about preventing burnout. When a task feels overwhelming, like learning a new language or finishing a year-long project, that initial intensity often fades.
Right, the motivation wanes.
It does. But consistency, that slow and steady pace, that's what ensures you actually succeed in the end.
I really appreciate how the source material puts these two contrasting ideas right next to each other.
It's very deliberate.
Yeah, because it teaches the learner not just the meaning of each phrase, but the strategy behind choosing which one to use.
That's it.
You use hit the ground running for the launch, for that initial phase, but you use slow and steady wins the race for the sustained effort, for the marathon.
And it mentally shifts your focus. It takes it away from this overwhelming, distant finish line and brings it back to the achievable things you can do today, the daily increment.
Yeah.
If you look at the pressure of modern professional life, it's always demanding instant results, instant gratification.
Right. What have you done for me today?
Exactly. So using a phrase like this is a conscious act of resistance. It's a strategic commitment to quality and longevity over just, hasty production.
Let's talk about its linguistic role for a second. If you have a colleague who's just panicking about the huge scope of a project and you say, hey, take a breath. Remember, slow and steady wins the race.
It immediately offers a calm perspective.
Totally. It grounds the whole conversation. It shifts the emotional register from panic to persistence. It's like an emotional regulation tool, all packaged in a single, simple sentence.
And its application is just vast, isn't it? Whether you're learning a difficult new skill, trying to save money for a house, or even navigating a difficult relationship.
Yeah.
The reminder that compounding effort will always trump these sporadic, intense bursts of energy is universally helpful. It is the language of endurance.
So we have the strategic start, hit the ground running, and we have the sustained mindset, slow and steady wins the race.
But what about those tasks Lucy had been putting off? The procrastination tasks.
Because often the biggest barrier to success is just starting.
That leads us perfectly to the third morning phrase. And this one was encountered during an interaction with her neighbor, Tom.
Right, Tom. He was making a slightly delayed appearance, as the source says.
I think we all have a neighbor like Tom.
We do. And Lucy met Tom, and he greeted her with this little affirmation, better late than never.
This phrase is incredibly effective. It acts as an immediate de-stressor. It just eliminates the guilt you feel about a delayed action.
Yeah, it completely reframes it.
It does. The literal meaning is obvious, of course, but its emotional function is really profound. It validates the act of eventual completion over the shame of being late.
The source notes that hearing Tom say it made Lucy realize it wasn't too late to tackle those things she'd been procrastinating on. It just strips away all the regret associated with inertia.
Right.
It reframes the timeline, making this present moment the only one that truly matters for taking action.
And for you, the learner, this is a phenomenal phrase to master because it works equally well as like a self-encouragement tool and as a social greeting.
Oh, for sure.
If you finally submit a project that was due last week and your boss says, well, better late than never, it's a kind of conversational olive branch.
A slightly passive-aggressive olive branch, maybe.
It could be.
Yeah.
But it still focuses entirely on the value of the action that was finally taken.
Okay, I want to challenge the use of this one a little bit, too. If a person uses this phrase too often about themselves, doesn't it lose its power and just start sounding like a flippant excuse for being bad at time management?
That is the nuance we need to explore. Absolutely. If you use it as a proactive excuse, yes, it can sound dismissive of deadlines. It can sound like you don't care.
Right. Sorry I'm late, but hey, better late than never.
Exactly. That could rub people the wrong way. However, in Lucy's context, as an observation or as encouragement for someone else, it's very powerful. It's used so often in social situations to just diffuse tension.
So if you arrive, say, 15 minutes late to a casual coffee with a friend,
Yeah.
and you say, so sorry, better late than never, it's generally accepted. It's a light acknowledgement of the delay, but it refocuses on the fact that you're here now.
It's all about context and sincerity.
Hmm.
It's the language tool that says the sunk cost of time that's already passed shouldn't stop you from acting right now.
I have permission to begin.
It is. So in those first few moments of Lucy's day, she armed herself with language to initiate tasks, to manage them sustainably, and to overcome the barrier of procrastination.
That is a substantial and immediate improvement in her communicative toolbox right there.
A huge improvement.
And as she moves into her day, the focus starts to shift. It moves away from self-management and into navigating the complexity of human interaction, which is, yeah, that's where these phrases really, really shine.
As Lucy transitioned from that internal planning to more external interactions, the phrases she encountered moved into the realm of social judgment and empathy. And this is where language becomes less about logistics and more about building relationships.
So her neighbor Tom was still chatting with her,
He was?
and he was sharing a story about a new coworker who everyone had misunderstood at first. And Tom offered this classic foundational piece of social advice. You can't judge a book by its cover.
This idiom is, it's the bedrock of non-judgmental social interaction, isn't it?
It really is.
It immediately encourages openness. The literal meaning is about not assessing a book's quality based on its binding or its artwork.
Yeah.
But metaphorically, it means that external appearances or those superficial first impressions are often really misleading.
Yeah.
And that applies to people, to situations, to potential opportunities.
So for the learner, mastering this phrase is about mastering social calibration.
Yes.
When you use it, you're signaling a deeper level of empathy. You're inviting the listener to just suspend their initial reflexive judgment and consider the underlying complexity of the situation.
You're positioning yourself as thoughtful, as open-minded.
Let's talk about its utility, though. In Lucy's source context, it applied to a coworker who was misunderstood. But you could apply it to, say, international business.
Oh, absolutely. A potential partner's company might seem small or unpolished from the outside.
Right, their website is terrible or something.
Exactly. But you can't judge a book by its cover suggests they might have unexpected resources or hidden expertise. It prevents you from making a premature dismissal that could cost you.
But wait a second. Isn't making snap judgments sometimes essential for safety or for efficiency? You can't deeply analyze every single thing.
True.
So where does the source kind of draw the line between healthy caution and excessive judgment?
The phrase doesn't argue against basic caution. It argues against dismissal.
Ah, okay. That's a key distinction.
It is. The source implies that quick judgments, if they're only based on surface-level aesthetics or a momentary behavior, can lead to missed opportunities or just a flawed social assessment. The line is drawn when efficiency overrides the possibility of depth.
So if a situation demands immediate action, like we'll see later when Lucy sees the stray dog, judgment has to be swift.
Of course. But in assessing someone's character or the long-term potential of a project, the phrase encourages patience.
So it's a tool for advocating for the underdog or for complexity. The cover is misleading. The book, the real substance, that takes time to read.
And it's a foundational communication skill, all encapsulated in those 7 words.
Now, following that discussion on, this ideal of openness, Lucy introduced a necessary reality check.
She did.
She responded to the challenge of trying to maintain that positive, non-judgmental attitude all day long with the phrase, "That's easier said than done."
This is such a key phrase for authentic communication.
It really is.
It validates effort. Well, we all know the principles, right? Be open-minded, stay positive, forgive and forget.
Yeah, we know what we're supposed to do.
Exactly. But executing on that constantly is tough. Easier said than done acknowledges the gap between the aspiration, the ideal, and the messy reality of execution.
For the learner, this is a phenomenal tool. It lets you agree with the principle of an idea while at the same time acknowledging the difficulty required to actually implement it.
Right. You're not being negative.
No. It transforms a simple conversation into a really honest, balanced dialogue. You avoid sounding dismissive, but you also refuse to sound naive.
It functions as a kind of conversational safety valve.
Okay.
If someone is offering you overly simplistic advice, like just be happy,
The worst advice.
it is. You can use this phrase to gently introduce a bit of realism without being argumentative. It signals that you're engaged, you're reflecting seriously on the complexity, it shows a high emotional quotient.
But the tone is everything here, isn't it?
The tone is everything. Used sarcastically, it can be very cynical.
Yeah, oh sure. Easier said than done.
Right. But used thoughtfully, the way Lucy did, it just validates the complexity of the human experience. It's the language of realism.
The narrative then shifts pretty dramatically, moving from this internal reflection to immediate, genuine action. And it demonstrates the practical application of language when you're under pressure.
Yes. Lucy's day suddenly included a small act of heroism.
It did.
She saw a stray dog near traffic
Yeah.
and guided it away. And her immediate communication was all about reassurance and support. She said, "Don't worry, I've got your back."
This might be the most powerful promise of immediate tactical support in the English language.
I think you're right.
It means, I am here to protect you, I will cover you, you do not have to face this challenge alone. It's an assurance of loyalty and physical or emotional coverage.
And in the source context, Lucy was providing literal physical coverage for the dog as she guided it.
Right.
But its primary utility is usually metaphorical, is promising organizational support during a professional crisis or emotional support during a difficult personal time. It conveys complete unconditional backing in a high-stakes moment.
And that builds immediate trust and just reduces anxiety for the person hearing it.
It's the kind of phrase that really transcends its dictionary definition. Its meaning is action. And then, following that quick supportive action, Lucy went to the park and began to reflect on the philosophy behind that promise.
She thought to herself, actions speak louder than words.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. This is where we connect these two big concepts.
Go on.
"I've got your back," is predictive language. It's a promise of future action and commitment.
Okay.
Actions speak louder than words is reflective language. It's a critical assessment tool that you use to evaluate sincerity and past behavior.
So the source material just beautifully ties together the linguistic tool of comfort with the philosophical imperative of being genuinely helpful.
Exactly.
Lucy decided to stop just talking about helping the little boy who was struggling with his kite, and she physically stepped in to help him fly it.
And that synergy teaches the learner a crucial lesson. The phrases you use must align with your behavior. If a person repeatedly says, "Don't worry, I've got your back," but then they fail to show up when you need them,
Then you apply the reflective tool.
you do. You think, well, actions speak louder than words. It's the ultimate metric for assessing sincerity, both in other people and, maybe more importantly, in yourself.
So using "I've got your back" without following through just means your words become meaningless.
You do.
But when Lucy physically helped that boy, her action validated her previous supportive language towards the dog, and it reinforced her own sense of purpose. This pair of phrases helps the learner master both the offer of support and the assessment of support.
And then, when the kite inevitably fell again,
As kites do.
as they do, Lucy didn't let the boy or herself dwell on the failure. She immediately deployed a tool for reorienting their focus. She said, "Every cloud has a silver lining."
This is the essential tool for consolation, isn't it? For finding optimism after a setback.
It is. It doesn't deny the difficulty. It acknowledges the cloud, but it forces both the speaker and the listener to actively search for the silver lining.
For the positive aspect, or the lesson learned, or the hidden opportunity within the failure.
Culturally, this phrase is so widely accepted. It rarely sounds trite, as long as the setback isn't, catastrophic.
Right, you probably wouldn't say it at a funeral.
Probably not. But it's effective because it acknowledges the pain while providing an immediate framework for moving forward. If a learner misses out on a scholarship, the silver lining might be the extra time they now have to focus on another critical project.
It helps reframe failure as feedback. And if we connect this all the way back to the slow and steady mindset,
Yes.
this phrase provides the emotional resilience you need to keep going in that marathon. It reorients the communication away from despair and towards future possibility.
And that is absolutely key for maintaining effective, long-term relationships and communication. Lucy's morning reflection confirmed it. Using these 7 practical phrases made her day brighter and her conversations more engaging.
She had moved from using language passively to using it strategically.
That's the leap.
And that transition from passive understanding to strategic deployment is the core of this entire deep dive. So now let's move into the afternoon, where the stakes get a little higher. We move from immediate social support to more long-term strategic planning.
As she transitioned into her work and steady tasks at the library, Lucy's internal dialogue and her external conversations, they shifted focus.
How so?
They became about strategy, about risk mitigation, and about managing frustration, which are, the real challenges of complex adult life.
For sure. So while she was planning her multiple projects, she remembered a friend's classic cautionary advice on diversification.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
A classic.
It is pure condensed risk management in a single sentence. Its literal origin is about the physical danger of losing all your produce if you drop that one container.
Right.
But metaphorically, it means you should never rely on just one source, one plan, or one strategy. Because if that single strategy fails, you lose everything.
The application here is just limitless, which makes it a fantastic tool for the learner. You can apply it to finance, to your career, or even, ironically, to language acquisition itself.
How so?
Well, if you're learning English and you're only relying on grammar textbooks, you are putting all your eggs in one basket.
That's a great point. You have to diversify your methods.
Exactly. You need reading and listening and speaking and this kind of idiomatic practice.
Using this phrase signals prudent planning. It shows mature consideration of potential points of failure. In a professional negotiation, if you suggest, perhaps we shouldn't put all our eggs in one basket with vendor A, let's develop a backup plan, it shows foresight.
And strategic thinking, all conveyed in 6 simple words.
I think we need to emphasize how this advice really counters the modern tendency towards hyper-specialization.
Oh, that's interesting.
While focus is obviously important, this phrase is a reminder that true resilience comes from having multiple streams, multiple approaches. It's concise professional wisdom that fits seamlessly into any conversation about investment or project management.
And the context for Lucy was choosing her project focus. She decided to try multiple angles rather than banking on one single monolithic approach.
And that's a linguistic reflection of strategic diversification.
Now, all this strategic planning and diversification can lead to anxiety, can it?
It certainly can.
And Lucy then demonstrates some really exceptional emotional intelligence in her next 2 interactions. She deploys 2 phrases that address stress, but over different timescales.
First, at the library, she saw an anxious student who was about to take an exam. Her immediate short-term advice was simple. Take it easy.
Take it easy. It's a wonderfully versatile phrase. It functions as an immediate command to just relax, calm down, reduce your immediate stress. In this context, it's telling the anxious student to modulate their overwhelming emotional state, to just mentally step back from the brink of panic.
We do need to differentiate the usage, though. While it's often used as a casual farewell, see you later, take it easy.
Right.
Its use as a piece of urgent, short-term advice offers this essential conversational relief. For the learner, knowing how to use this phrase to shift the tone of a stressful conversation is a major step towards social mastery.
But then, almost immediately after that, she encountered a frustrated old friend who was dealing with these massive long-term difficulties at work.
Right. A totally different scale of problem.
Totally. And here, Lucy offered a long-term perspective, saying, Rome wasn't built in a day.
And this grouping is so crucial for understanding emotional support phrases. Take it easy handles the acute, immediate panic.
Let's sprint.
Rome wasn't built in a day addresses the chronic, monumental frustration, the marathon. It stresses patience, sustained effort, and the critical understanding that significant, complex achievements just require a substantial amount of time.
And the historical weight of the idiom is what gives it its rhetorical power, right?
It is.
By invoking the image of building the capital of an entire civilization, you are implicitly telling the listener that their goal is monumental, it's complex, and therefore it is justified in taking a long time.
It's the verbal antidote to our impulse for instant gratification and the shame we feel about slow progress.
It really acts as an incredible psychological tool. If her friend felt defeated by a seemingly endless task list, this phrase encourages a return to that slow and steady mindset we talked about earlier.
It validates the sustained effort. It tells the listener, You're not failing. You are simply participating in a monumental endeavor that requires years, not hours.
So this combination gives the learner an instant remedy for stress, depending on the scale of the problem. A small phrase for a small moment, and a grand historical phrase for a grand long-term struggle.
That is strategic language use.
And then finally, in that same conversation with her friend, Lucy transitioned from offering comfort to encouraging definitive action. She encouraged responsibility.
She did, with the phrase, "the ball is in your court."
Let's break down this sports metaphor.
Okay.
It means the moment of responsibility, the choice to act, the burden of making the next decision. It now rests entirely with the listener. The metaphor comes from tennis or similar games, where you can only act when the ball is on your side of the net.
It has an incredibly empowering conversational effect, assuming the friend is ready to accept that responsibility.
That's a big assumption sometimes.
It is. But Lucy used it to push her friend towards making her own proactive decisions, rather than just waiting for other people or external forces to decide for her. It's a tool for transferring ownership.
And it serves a vital boundary-setting function, too.
How do you mean?
Well, if you've offered all the advice you possibly can, using this phrase clearly signals, my part in this is done. The next move belongs entirely to you.
That's extremely useful. In negotiation, in project delegation, even in counseling. It establishes clear boundaries of responsibility, and it encourages agency.
Right. So if you're waiting for a client's response after you've submitted a big proposal, you can frame that waiting period by saying, the proposal is in, now the ball is in their court. It just clarifies the situation using this concise, recognizable language.
This whole section really highlights that fluency means mastering the language of strategy, of patience, and of empowerment.
These aren't just fun sayings, they are high-utility communication devices. So now we shift to the final phase of the day, cementing all this knowledge and applying it in these immediate, functional, daily interactions.
As Lucy finished her strategic planning and started her journey home, the focus shifted to the meta lesson of the entire day.
Gushes.
How do you move these 12 strategic phrases from just, intellectual knowledge into automatic conversational fluency?
And that essential process of integration leads us right to the core observation of any learner's journey. Practice makes perfect.
Yes. Lucy repeated the new phrases silently to herself on her way home. She recognized that conscious, active repetition was required for mastery.
This phrase is more than just a cliche. It's a reminder of the necessary bridge between passive comprehension and active deployment.
It reinforces that learner persona's goal of quick but thorough knowledge acquisition. It's the strategic recognition that competence isn't a gift. It's the result of iteration and effort.
I think we need to spend a moment on what practice actually means here.
Good idea.
It's not just rote repetition, like a parrot.
Yeah.
The source implies Lucy was practicing using the phrases in context. She was creating little scenarios in her head.
Like, if X happens, I will use Y phrase.
Exactly. Mastery requires that shift from I understand what it means, which is passive, to I know exactly when and how to deploy it for maximum emotional effect, which is active.
You need to transition these phrases into your mental toolbox so they become automatic shortcuts when you're under pressure. That silent repetition, or even just using them in low-stakes interactions, is the necessary training ground.
And speaking of low-stakes interactions that require a bit of social finesse, Lucy needed a caffeine fix.
Of course.
She ordered at the coffee shop using this brilliant little shortcut. I'll have what you recommend.
What's so fascinating about this simple phrase is its multifunctional efficiency.
How so?
For someone who might still be navigating the nuances of ordering in a foreign language, this phrase achieves three things at once. One, it communicates a preference, which is trusting the server. Two, it shows deference to their expertise. And three, it dramatically reduces decision friction.
It completely eliminates that potential awkwardness of mispronouncing a complex coffee name or trying to translate a very specific flavor profile.
And it sounds incredibly natural. In fact, it often sounds quite sophisticated because it signals confidence in the server, and it just provides instant efficiency in the whole transaction.
It's fluency demonstrated through social intelligence.
And it's a great example of humility as a strength. Instead of struggling to make the right choice, Lucy showed confidence by delegating the choice to the expert. This is a conversational maneuver that immediately streamlines what could be an awkward negotiation into a smooth, natural exchange.
Okay, so following her coffee break, Lucy engaged in two more functional neighborly interactions, and they both required a quick, logical justification for her actions.
One for caution and one for demystification.
Exactly. First, she was helping a neighbor lift a heavy bag of groceries, and she provided a reason for taking extra care. She said, "Better safe than sorry."
This is a quintessential utility phrase, isn't it? It's for explaining and justifying cautious action.
For sure.
It means that the slight extra effort or the delay required for prudence is absolutely justified because the risk of a negative outcome, like an injury, an error, a loss, far outweighs the cost of the caution.
It's the verbal equivalent of a safety net in daily life. If you spend an extra minute double-checking a complex form before you submit it,
Hmm.
or you take a slightly longer route to avoid bad traffic, you use this phrase to justify that slight delay. For the learner, it's a quick way to communicate the logic behind a cautious choice without needing to describe the entire potential disaster scenario.
And it contrasts really nicely with the strategic risk-taking implied by "don't put all your eggs in one basket."
Oh, that's a great connection.
That phrase deals with managing potential failure. "Better safe than sorry" deals with avoiding immediate, predictable danger through simple prudence.
Now, contrast that essential caution with the very next interaction. She met another neighbor who was stressed out about bills and paperwork.
Ugh, the worst.
And Lucy offered reassurance by simplifying the problem. It's not rocket science.
This is the ultimate tool for demystification and anxiety reduction.
How so?
It means the solution, or the task at hand, is inherently simpler than the anxious person perceives it to be. It reduces the perceived complexity of the problem, and that dramatically lowers the emotional temperature of the situation.
The term rocket science obviously refers to something massively complicated and specialized.
Right.
So by using the negation, Lucy immediately tells her neighbor, hey, step back. View this problem through a lens of practicality, not panic. It encourages them to stop overthinking and just start solving.
But we absolutely must acknowledge the potential for misuse here.
Okay.
If you use this with the wrong tone, or in response to a genuinely complex problem, this phrase can sound incredibly condescending.
Right. It can sound like you're minimizing their struggle.
Exactly. Lucy, based on the source context, used it specifically for tasks like basic finances or organizational work, where the anxiety was clearly disproportionate to the actual difficulty.
So the key then is calibration.
Calibration. It's not rocket science, only when the problem is fundamentally procedural or organizational, rather than deeply intellectual or technical. It's a tool for breaking down mental barriers, not for belittling someone.
So in this final phase of her day, we see Lucy practicing the phrases,
Practice makes perfect?
demonstrating social ease,
I'll have what you recommend.
justifying her caution,
Better safe than sorry.
and providing emotional reassurance through demystification.
It's not rocket science.
And this leads us to the comprehensive synthesis of Lucy's entire remarkable journey.
By the end of the day, Lucy realized she had encountered and internalized 14 specific high-utility phrases. And the source noted "and more," totaling 20 phrases she encountered in real-life situations.
20 specific functional tools all gained in one single day. And the core insight that she derived from the source is just transformative for any learner.
Which is
English phrases weren't just words to memorize from a list, they were pre-packaged tools.
tools used to connect, to comfort, and to communicate intent instantaneously.
That realization is the key to accelerated fluency. It's the entire purpose of this deep dive. When you face a challenging communication moment, whether it's starting a project, comforting a friend, or simply ordering coffee,
You no longer have to construct a complicated sentence from scratch using all these grammar rules in your head.
no, you can just pull out one of these context-specific tools and communicate effectively, naturally, and with a really high degree of social calibration.
This approach transforms language learning from a tedious academic task into a highly functional, immediately rewarding experience.
An experience driven by success in daily interactions. And that is how you achieve fluency faster. So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Our deep dive into Lucy's day really proves that quick, demonstrable improvements in fluency. They don't come from adding hundreds of nouns to your vocabulary.
Yeah.
They come from actively identifying and incorporating these dynamic, context-specific phrases into your daily dialogue. It's about building a toolbox of conversational shortcuts that express complex ideas in a simple way.
We saw how she armed herself for success in initiating tasks, in planning long-term goals, in providing emotional comfort, and navigating practical transactions. The ultimate lesson from the source material rings true.
What's that?
The focus on practical, context-based learning is the most effective and confidence-boosting path to accelerated fluency. Small steps every day using these strategic phrases lead to big improvements in how you sound and, more importantly, how you connect with other people.
We've focused heavily on the practical communication tools and the confidence they instill. Lucy's main takeaway was that these phrases were primarily used to connect, to comfort, and to communicate intentions clearly and efficiently.
They are social intelligence translated into language.
Exactly.
So here is our final provocative thought for you to carry into your own day, based on that source material. Of those 20 phrases Lucy identified, whether it was the supportive "I've got your back," the strategic "the ball is in your court," or the demystifying "it's not rocket science," consider which one specific phrase you will intentionally practice and deploy immediately today to make your next conversation more impactful, more natural, and more fluent.
Go ahead. Hit the ground running.